Hi, welcome to Body of Work, where we discuss rap albums and topics regarding rappers. Today's topic, Jay-Z, Vol.1. Let's get into it. Before we get into the album review, does anybody remember these? This was our format back in the days that we used to use to listen to music. It came with booklet and CD. Nowadays, I know you guys normally stream music. You have no use for physical copies. But I cherish this because it's a part of my generation. I know a lot of y'all weren't even born when this came out, this ancient artifact from 1997 off Rockefeller. But let's get into the album. Rockefeller, y'all. Track 1 is 1,000,001 Questions, and I gave this a 4. It's a typical intro track, but the most iconic part about it is, okay, I'm reloaded. It's definitely the track that starts off the album and lets you know that it's going to be a regular sophomore album, but at the same time, Jay-Z is moving in a different direction, especially after the loss of Biggie Smalls. Track 2 is The City Is Mine, and you could tell by the title that Jay-Z is already letting you know and foreshadowing that he's about to take the game by storm and he's the new force in the rap game. There's countless Biggie references, and there's a lot of homage being played to Biggie, which is what a lot of people don't say about this track. Track 3 is I Know What Girls Like. And it's a typical track that you find on albums. It's a filler. It's probably track 3 because they knew somehow in the future I was going to give it a 3 rating. I mean, I get that it has Puff Daddy and Lil Kim on it, but other than that, there's nothing really good to see here. Imaginary Player is possibly one of the best tracks on this album, if not the best, depending on who you ask. But for me, this track basically showed how much Jay-Z has influenced the game. He starts off talking about, I was drinking Cristal when a lot of you guys thought it was beer. Wearing platinum when all you guys thought it was silver. And he shows his flamboyantness, his cockiness, and calling out a lot of people. I know you guys call it capping now, but there were a lot of people who were capping back in the days, and he was calling out the different ways that people were capping during the time he was coming up. Streets is Watching is definitely a track that's self-explanatory. The Streets is Watching. It definitely depicts a lot of things that happen once you get fame or any level of success. Basically, if you have even a dime more than the next person, you can bet to believe that they will be watching you and looking for your weaknesses just to attack. And that's exactly what Jay-Z has displayed in the song in different ways that the hood will attack you for the penalty of being successful. Friend of Foe 98 is definitely a continuation to the Reasonable Doubt track, Friend of Foe. It definitely concludes the story that Jay-Z was trying to tell about him being a rapper, but yet still dabbling in selling drugs. We all know how true that is at the time, but it's definitely a great storytelling track. And the fact that he did a continuation to it is definitely a track I like. I mean, I gave it a 4, so you already know. I'm always going back to listen to this. Now the track Lucky Me is a track I honestly gave it 2. I really don't know about this track, but a lot of times when I don't have enough space on my phone, I tend to keep it out of it. I really gotta force myself to listen to it, and this may be one of the worst songs I think Jay-Z has made. It's definitely an egregious filler, and I tried my best to not listen to this song because it's not really that great at all. Sunshine, also known as Always Be Mine, is a single that helped propel this album and help it sell in 1997 when a lot of things were happening in the rap game. It's definitely the most commercial song in my opinion in this album. I definitely gave it a 5, but at the same time, it's a track that I always go back to because it reminds you of the old Jay-Z. his when he was first starting to become more commercialized to a lot of people. Who You With 2, and I know a lot of people are saying this. Who You With 2? We never heard Who You With 1. Well, technically you've heard it before. If you've ever seen the video, it's basically Who You With 1 because it was definitely featured in the song track for a very old movie called Sprung. I know a lot of people probably don't know this movie because it came out all the way in 1997. If it had actors like Joe Torre and Tisha Campbell, and if you don't know who Tisha Campbell is, she was Gina or Martin. But that's where Who You With 1 was. Who You With 2 is on the album. And the difference between those two tracks is that Who You With 2 has a completely different third verse. So it is actually named correctly Who You With 2. To go into what the track is based on, is basically the pimp type vibes and definitely a public service announcement of the time to gold diggers and exactly how they will be treated if they come seeking resources from Jay-Z. And we definitely need more tracks like this nowadays because with feminism running around, it's running rampant with ladies trying to get resources from men. Now the track Face Off is a track that I definitely give a 4. Because back in the days, a lot of times you've seen Source Money pop up on features in Jay-Z's albums. And he definitely did a very decent job on a lot of the tracks that he's on. And this is one of the tracks, Face Off. I mean, the only thing stopping me from really liking this song is, of course, the Biggie lines. Biggie is definitely a big influence in this album. Real Niggas is a track that's featuring Too Short, and I gave it a 3 because one of the issues I have with this song is that it was the first instance of Jay-Z actually biting off Biggie after he passed away, and even the chorus is Biggie's. Rap Game Crack Game is definitely one of those tracks that I love. It's one of my favorite Jay-Z tracks of all time, and it's possibly the most clever track on this album. It definitely shows you the comparisons between the drug game and rapping, and Jay-Z cleverly shows how he markets his music, kind of like how as a drug dealer they market their drugs to people. This is one of the best tracks I think I've ever heard from him. Where I'm From is Jay-Z's track describing the life that he lived in Marcy projects and how there's a lack of hope within any project. I mean, if you're familiar with my video on attack on drill music, I do point out how there's a lack of hope in a lot of black communities, and Jay-Z describes exactly what he had to deal with when he lived in those projects. And I also do want to give a service announcement for white folks because y'all definitely need it from time to time. And I've been seeing a lot of you guys visiting some of these projects and taking pictures in front of them. I do need to tell you, Marcy Projects is not a tourist attraction. Stop with the fuckery. It's dangerous there. At any moment, you could be attacked by the inhabitants that live there because possibly people that you may know or some of your ancestors have put some of these people in those predicaments. You Must Love Me is my favorite track on this entire album. And it's also one of my boys, Mike's, favorite track on this album too. The crazy thing about this song is also the darkest close to an album, I think. And it deals with the topic of, forgiveness for your faults, which a lot of people don't get the chance to be forgiven for the mistakes that they make. And before I thought of doing the album review for this album, Jay-Z had recently posted that when he looks back to this album, he's haunted. And the crazy thing is, when you look at this album and the dark details in this track alone, This man has made a lot of egregious mistakes that the most common black man probably would never forgive him for. And it's crazy the subject matter in this song, and it shows you the lengths that Jay-Z will go to acquire the means to do whatever he wants and be able to live his life as comfortably as possible. I mean, this track, it might not be a commercial hit to a lot of people, but I know a lot of people go back to listen to this track, and a lot of times you say to yourself like, damn. Now I know Jay-Z is haunted by this album, and rightfully so. But another thing you could take from this album is that the psychology of a lot of people who are in those adverse situations. I mean, it shows you what a lot of people have to deal with. And I know I tackled this subject in one of my previous videos about the attack on drill. No one really wants to starve, and they'll do whatever it takes to survive. It definitely gets you to look at a lot of situations in the hood and what people really have to deal with. Other than that, Volume 1 is definitely a better album than a lot of people really give it credit for. It actually outsold Reasonable Doubt. It's certified platinum. And the subject matters is definitely one of the things you would want to look at, especially on this album. Other than that, like I rank it also higher than Volume 3 too. I just thought I would throw that in there. But it's a decent album to listen to, in my opinion. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next episode of Body at Work.